My wife drunkenly wished her male coworker could cook for her every day. I responded calmly with one word, understood. When she realized what I had done, it was already too late. My name is David Chen, 34 years old, software engineer in Seattle. What I'm about to tell you happened 2 years ago, but the effects are still playing out today. And what my wife Sarah didn't know was that her drunken confession that night would teach her a lesson about being careful what you wish for. I met Sarah 7 years ago at my buddy Mike's housewarming party. I'd brought my grandmother's lasagna recipe, something I'd been perfecting since college. Sarah kept coming back to the kitchen, asking about ingredients, watching me explain the technique. "You have to teach me how to cook like this," she said, laughing as she went for her third helping. Our relationship was built around food from day one. I'd cook elaborate weekend dinners. She'd help with prep work. We'd plan vacations around food tours, hit farmers markets every Saturday morning. When I proposed, it was over a 7-course meal that took me 2 days to prepare. She cried when she tasted the chocolate souffle, my fourth attempt that week to get it perfect. After we married 4 years ago, cooking became my primary way of showing love. Sarah worked long hours at a tech startup, often coming home exhausted around 8 or 9 p.m. I'd have dinner waiting, nothing fancy on weekdays, but always made from scratch. Thursdays were my experimental nights. Complex cuisines, challenging techniques, recipes that would sometimes fail spectacularly. Sarah was supportive when things went well, diplomatic when they didn't. When I'd overcook salmon or make a curry too spicy, she'd eat it without complaining, but I'd notice her ordering lunch the next day instead of taking leftovers. "It's fine, honey," she'd say when I apologized. "You're learning." About a year before everything changed, Sarah's company hired a new creative director named Marcus. He'd worked in restaurants before moving into marketing, and Sarah started mentioning him regularly, how he'd bring incredible homemade lunches that made the whole office jealous, how he'd grown up in his Italian grandmother's kitchen, how he understood flavor combinations in ways that amazed everyone. I didn't think much of it initially, but Marcus kept coming up in conversations. Marcus made this incredible risotto for the team lunch. Marcus was explaining why you should never rinse pasta. Marcus says the secret to good carbonara is technique, not ingredients. I started noticing Sarah's comments about my cooking getting more pointed. When I'd present a dish I was proud of, she'd take a bite and say something like, "It's good," but Marcus was saying oregano can overpower everything else. Or, "This reminds me of something Marcus made, but he used fresh herbs instead of dried." The night that changed everything was a Friday in November 2022. I'd been working on beef Wellington for months. It's notoriously difficult, requiring perfect pastry that's golden but not soggy, beef that's exactly medium rare. I'd failed twice before, but this attempt felt different. Sarah came home around 7, already wine relaxed from happy hour with coworkers. I was pulling the Wellington from the oven when she walked into the kitchen, wrapping her arms around me from behind. "Smells good," she said. I could smell the wine on her breath. "Third time's a charm," I replied, setting the pan down. 10 minutes to rest, then we'll see if I finally nailed it." We opened a Bordeaux I'd been saving. Sarah was telling me about some client presentation that had gone well. I was half listening, anxious about cutting into the Wellington, hoping this time I'd achieve that perfect pink interior. When I finally sliced it, my heart sank. The pastry was soggy on the bottom, the beef more well done than intended. Not terrible, but definitely not restaurant quality. "It's rustic," Sarah said diplomatically. We both started laughing. The wine, the built-up expectations, the obvious disappointment, it struck us as absurdly funny. Sarah was giggling, I was chuckling, and for a moment it felt like old times when my cooking failures were just amusing setbacks. That's when she said it. "You know what?" Sarah said, still laughing, words slightly slurred. "I wish Marcus could cook for me every day. His food is just, God, it's so good. Like restaurant quality, but somehow even better because he makes it with love, you know?" The laughter died in my throat. The kitchen went completely silent, except for the wine bottle being set down too hard on the granite counter. Sarah's face immediately changed when she heard what she'd said. "Oh God, David, I didn't mean. That came out wrong. I was just—" I set down my fork very carefully. looked at her across our dining table, the same table where I'd served her hundreds of meals over 4 years of marriage. Understood, I said quietly. No, it's not like that. I'm drunk and stupid, and I love your cooking. You know I do. That was just the wine talking. Really, it's fine, I said, managing what I hoped was a reassuring smile. Let's just forget about it. But I couldn't forget about it. Even as we finished dinner and moved to the couch, even as Sarah kept apologizing and I kept saying it was no big deal, those words echoed in my mind. I wish Marcus could cook for me every day. The next morning, Sarah woke up hungover and guilty. I feel terrible about what I said last night. You know I didn't mean it like that, right? I hugged her, told her it was water under the bridge. But something had crystallized in my mind overnight. Not anger, something colder. Clarity. That afternoon, while Sarah was at yoga, I sat in my home office and really processed what had happened. It wasn't just that my wife had praised another man's cooking. She'd expressed a genuine wish for something I apparently couldn't provide. After 4 years of trying, studying techniques, buying better ingredients, practicing constantly, I still wasn't cooking at the level she actually wanted. More than that, I realized she'd been settling. All those diplomatic comments about my overcooked fish, all those gentle suggestions about what Marcus would do differently, she'd been trying to spare my feelings while secretly wishing she was eating someone else's food. That's when I made my decision. Not from spite, but from a kind of sad acceptance. If Sarah wished Marcus could cook for her every day, then clearly my cooking wasn't what she wanted, so I would stop offering it. That evening, I found Sarah on the couch with her laptop. I'm never going to cook for you again, I said, my voice matter of fact. She looked up, startled. What? David, we talked about this. I apologized. You were honest, I said. I appreciate honesty. You wish someone else could cook for you. I understand that, so I won't put you in the position of having to eat my food anymore. That's ridiculous. I love your cooking. I shook my head. You love that I try to cook for you, but you don't love the results, and that's okay. I'm not upset. I just think it's better this way. Sarah started crying, which surprised me. Please don't do this. I made one stupid comment when I was drunk. Don't punish us both. I'm not punishing anyone, I said gently. I'm accepting reality. You've been settling for my cooking because you love me, not because you enjoy it. That's not fair to either of us. She tried to argue, but my mind was made up. That night I ordered Chinese takeout. Sarah barely touched her food. The next few weeks were awkward. Sarah would suggest cooking together, trying to get back to our old routine. I'd politely decline and suggest takeout or that she cook if she wanted to. She'd offer to help with prep work. I'd tell her I wasn't planning anything elaborate. But what Sarah didn't know was that I had started cooking again, just not for her. I began bringing elaborate lunches to work that impressed my coworkers. I'd cook for friends at dinner parties. I'd experiment with new techniques on weekends, but only when Sarah wasn't around. 3 months after the Wellington incident, I made a decision that would change everything. I enrolled in weekend cooking classes with Chef Laurent, a Frenchman who'd trained at Le Cordon Bleu. Sarah had no idea. Every Saturday morning, I'd tell her I was going to the gym, then spend 4 hours learning proper knife techniques, understanding flavor building, discovering why my previous attempts had failed. Chef Laurent was demanding, critical in ways YouTube videos never were. You cook like someone trying to prove something, he told me after my third class. Stop trying to impress. Start trying to express. Under his guidance, I began understanding cooking not as following recipes, but as understanding principles. The breakthrough came 6 months in. Chef Laurent had us prepare a complete 3-course meal for evaluation. I made pan-seared duck breast with cherry gastrique, handmade pasta with sage brown butter, and a chocolate tart that made Chef Laurent nod approvingly. Finally, he said, something with soul. That's when I started cooking for my family. Sunday dinners at my sister Karen's house became showcases for what I was learning. Perfectly cooked beef tenderloin with red wine reduction, duck confit with crispy skin, soufflés that rose golden and held their shape. David, this is restaurant quality, Karen said one evening. Where did you learn to cook like this? I've been taking classes, I admitted. Classes? Sarah never mentioned. Sarah doesn't know. Karen's expression told me she understood more than she was saying. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was becoming the cook Sarah had wished for, but she would never taste the results. A year after I'd stopped cooking for Sarah, she began to notice things. She'd see me loading beautiful dishes into containers for work potlucks. She'd smell incredible aromas when I thought she wasn't home. Once she came back early and found me plating what looked like something from a Michelin-starred restaurant. "What is that?" she asked, staring at the beautifully composed dish. "Dinner for tomorrow's work event," I said casually. "It looks professional." I shrugged. "I've been practicing. Can I try some?" "I made exactly enough portions," I said, which was true. I'd learned to cook precisely. No waste, no extras. Sarah's face fell, but she didn't push. The real revelation came last Christmas. Sarah's family always hosted a big dinner, and I offered to handle the entire main course. Sarah looked surprised but pleased. I spent 2 days preparing. Perfect prime rib with horseradish cream sauce, duck fat roasted potatoes, glazed carrots with fresh thyme, and the centerpiece, a traditional Spanish paella I'd been perfecting for months. Sarah's family was stunned. Her mother, who'd never complimented my cooking before, asked for multiple recipes. Her father went back for thirds. Her brother-in-law actually applauded when I brought out dessert, a chocolate souffle that held its rise perfectly. "David, this is extraordinary," Sarah's mother said. "When did you become such an incredible chef?" "He's always been good," Sarah said loyally, but I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. "Good? This is professional level." Throughout dinner, I watched Sarah tasting each dish, her eyes widening with each bite. I could see her trying to reconcile this food, complex, perfectly seasoned, restaurant quality, with the husband who used to serve her soggy Wellington. After dinner, Sarah pulled me aside. "David, that was... I had no idea you could cook like that." "Thank you," I said simply. "But why don't you ever... We order takeout most nights. If you can cook like this, why don't you cook for us anymore?" I looked at her for a long moment. "Because you wish someone else could cook for you every day. I'm just making sure you don't have to settle for my cooking." Her face crumpled. "That was 2 years ago. I was drunk. You can't still be holding on to that." "I'm not holding on to anything," I said calmly. "I'm being realistic about what you actually want. What I want is my husband to cook for me the way he used to." "No," I said gently. "What you want is for your husband to cook the way Marcus does, and I can do that now, but I choose not to." That conversation was 6 months ago. Since then, Sarah has asked me to cook for her dozens of times. Each time I politely decline. I'll cook for her family, my family, friends, co-workers, but not for her. She's tried every approach, repeated apologies, offers to take cooking classes together, suggestions we start fresh, pretend that night never happened. My answer is always the same. I understand what you really want, and it's not fair to either of us for me to pretend otherwise. Last month, Marcus left Sarah's company for a job in Portland. Sarah mentioned it casually, clearly hoping this news might change something. "He's gone," she said over Vietnamese takeout. "Marcus moved away." "I hope he likes Portland," I said. "David, there was never anything between us. He was just a co-worker who could cook." "I know," I said. "This was never about Marcus. This was about honesty." "Honesty? You were honest about what you wanted. I'm being honest about what I'm willing to give." 2 years later, our marriage has found a new equilibrium. We function well as partners in most areas. We share responsibilities, make decisions together, support each other's careers. But the kitchen, once the heart of our relationship, has become neutral territory. Sarah has learned to cook basic meals herself. She's gotten quite good at stir fries and pasta dishes. We order takeout more than we should, but we've found restaurants we both enjoy. But I don't cook for her. Not elaborate meals, not experimental dishes, not the kind of food that would make her eyes light up with genuine pleasure. Do I miss it? Sometimes. I miss the anticipation of impressing her with a new technique. I miss her face when a dish turned out perfectly. But I don't miss the pretending. I don't miss watching her eat my food with diplomatic enthusiasm while secretly wishing it was better. I don't miss being compared to Marcus or anyone else. Instead, I cook for people who genuinely appreciate what I make. Coworkers look forward to my contributions to office events. Family requests specific dishes for special occasions. Friends invite me specifically, hoping I'll bring something exceptional. Sarah watches sometimes when I'm preparing food for others. I'll catch her looking wistful as I plate something beautiful, something that smells incredible, something that will make other people happy. But she never asks to try it, and I never offer. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" she asked recently. "There's nothing to forgive," I said. "You told me what you really wanted. I listened. But it's been 2 years. And in 2 years, have you ever wished I could cook for you the way Marcus did?" She was quiet for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "No." Then I made the right decision. Last week, I made a perfect bouillabaisse for my sister's anniversary dinner. The broth was crystal clear and intensely flavorful, the seafood perfectly cooked, the ruiz silky and complex. Sarah would have loved it, but she'll never know. Some people might think I'm being petty, holding a grudge over a drunken comment, but I don't see it that way. I see it as accepting reality and acting accordingly. My wife wished for something I couldn't give her at the time. Now I can give it to her, but I choose not to, because I learned the difference between cooking for someone who genuinely wants what you offer and cooking for someone who's just being polite. And that's a lesson that changed everything.